Morning. I think anyone who had intentions to come to this discussion has already arrived. So I don't think there'll be any more coming in. Thank you very much and welcome to this session. The session is called the Infrastructure Catalyst, Igniting Urban Regeneration and Transit-Centered Growth. My name is Gikonyo Gitonga. I am the Managing Director of Axis Real Estate. I will just ask the rest of the panel speakers to quickly introduce themselves, and then we can get on to just say their name and company they work, and just a bit of the work they're doing that's related to the topic. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Gigi. My name is Edward Ngava. I work for KPMG's infrastructure practice in Africa, focusing a lot on transport and also urban regeneration. Pleasure.
My name is Tinka. I am a real estate consultant and agent. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Neerav Kapila. I lead Arup's transport and integrated urban mobility capability in the East Africa region. Focusing on that and a bit more.
Hi everyone, my name's Bobby Patel. I'm the global head of real estate for a frontier markets investment fund called CrossBoundary. I run CrossBoundary Real Estate, and I'm the founder of an urban youth housing platform called Mosaic.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome to this discussion. I will start first of all with Edward Ngava. Coincidentally, the four of us worked on a project together on the Nairobi Railway City. So a lot of learnings and talk will be around what we did and what we know is going to happen around Nairobi Railway City. So first of all, Edward, what is the unique value proposition of the Nairobi Railway City project that would incentivize private developers to partner with government rather than pursue independent land acquisition and development elsewhere in the metropolitan area?
So on the Nairobi Railway City, I'm sure for a lot of the people in Nairobi, it's been something that they've read of on the papers and, very little construction on the same. But what I'd say around that is just given the scale of that project. So I lead as deputy team lead on the technical assistance on that program. And for context, it's redeveloping 438 acres. That's just adjacent to the central business district. So that's bigger than our central business district of Nairobi. Getting from that position to getting to a point around development of a master plan, getting the governance right, getting the framework, getting the financing in place, and identifying the first mover projects has been a lot of the work that we've done in the last couple of years. So to your question around the same, what's the incentive for private sector to get involved in this particular project is really, this is a major project of strategic national importance for the government of Kenya. And as such, they have put in the necessary resources that are required to make this a sense of place that would make this a place that private sector would see the value of putting in developments in the same. With that, we have also put in place the necessary mechanisms that would allow for accelerated planning approval, given that this is a special planning area. Government has put in resources in terms of putting in horizontal infrastructure to the borderline of the site. And given that this is a major transit-oriented development, government has also put in place the redevelopment of the Nairobi commuter rail network. which we already have a central station that is going to be expanded to have the capacity of like 30,000 passengers per peak hour. So significant, and that has already been tendered and awarded and is in the process of mobilizing the procurement. So looking at that, then that really shows the skill that government is able to put in the necessary resources to allow for private sector to do business and to make considerable returns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Neerav, I'll just ask you, how do you use an area redevelopment project as an opportunity to ignite wider urban regeneration?
Yeah, thanks, Gigi. So the normal approach to an area redevelopment project, you draw a red line around it and then focus on what's inside that red line. One should always also look at interactions externally. Now, for something like Nairobi Railway City, which, as Edward said, is CBD adjacent, its interactions with the city centre are crucial. So looking at the city centre, Nairobi CBD, that hasn't worked properly since the 1990s or so. Big business has essentially moved out of the CBD, and the city is sprawled, the city has got very inefficient, there's business inefficiency, there's all sorts of other inefficiencies as a result of that. So the fundamental requirement is mass transit. So Nairobi Railway City, we adjusted it for the mass transit to be the central focus, the key part of it, enabling that, what was essentially a railway district redevelopment project, which may have struggled to actually work properly for the same reasons that the CBD would have struggled or is struggling. Focusing on that mass transit makes Nairobi Railway City work.
Okay, thank you very much, Neerav. This now will be going to Bobby. I know you're not relying a lot. When building Mosaic, you made a conscious decision not to rely too much on government-led infrastructure. Why was that important to you, and how did it influence your approach to site selection and density?
Thanks, Gigi. So I think for those in the room that are investors or developers, the one thing that we don't have on our side is time. We may have raised enough money, but that money comes at a rate of return that affects the project's success. And so I think projects like Nairobi Railway City are fantastic, and they're needed by the citizens of those that are living in Nairobi. But the challenge that we have as developers is the time that it takes to get to the finish line is a long sort of track, and our projects need to be successful well before that happens. So the decision that we made as a developer of Mosaic and the concept of Mosaic was to support what we believe to be the mass of the country, which is all those below the age of 35. 70% of the population are below that threshold, so 35. And to serve them with affordable rentals as opposed to homes that they can buy. So when we started selecting sites and looking at how infrastructure or government-led infrastructure projects are going to support those sites, we really just did not focus on government-led infrastructure. We focused on what currently exists and trying to make that successful, because that would save us time in the long run. There's a lot that would be out of our control had we focused on government-led infrastructure projects and the timing behind that, or the promised timing, that we felt actually in order to achieve success, we just need to use what we have and what the city already provides, which are buildings in really good locations that are already connected to road networks and or have sufficient foot traffic towards urban nodes that provide employment. And that's where we focus our time and energy on developing sites that appeal to us for the urban youth in those locations.
Thank you very much, Bobby. I'll now go to Tinka Patience. How can government use land value capture tools to unlock underutilized urban land and fund critical infrastructure? I think also at the same time, I think you need to explain what is land value capture so that members of the audience can, I think we as valuers understand it, but maybe somebody here will not understand what land value capture is. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Gigi. So land value capture is a very powerful but underutilized tool, but I am grateful to be in the rooms that I am in and see that our country is now putting land value capture as part of the revenue raising mechanism. So we know infrastructure is of a catalytic nature, right? We have the roads, we have the bypasses, there's so much infrastructure that goes on. And we know once there's the infrastructure layered with zoning and betterment, what happens is investment starts happening in these places. So you get primary investment, you get secondary investment, and this grows to a point that, sorry. Thank you. Oh yes, much better, thank you. So this grows to a point where you now have even the community engaging and being bettered. And a good example of this is the Tinka superhighway. We have seen since its development, what happened was people started constructing next to the roads, there are commercial nodes that started coming up, and so many people started developing and making money and profiting from the highway. Same thing with the flyovers, even this upper hill bypass that is now being developed. All these infrastructure improvements will bring value. So now, is there a way that we as government or the public and the private sector can both benefit from this value before the development even happens? So that's what land value capture is. So the government partners with the private sector in order to capture that increase in value, and we use land value capture tools such as betterment levies and incremental rating, and now the public-private partnerships or joint ventures, and these methods come together to bring back revenue in a way that can be put back into the infrastructure or also make money for the private sector as well. And this also helps now in the end in utilizing underutilized land. The same way we started in Nairobi and now development has gone to Roiro, to Thika, and now the Kiambu municipality has grown in an immense way. So now we're gonna be able to capture this value beforehand and be able to benefit from it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that very good explanation about land value capture. So it's now a policy within government. There's a land value capture which is being driven by the National Treasury, and they're looking at how they go, and it's been supported by the World Bank in how do we use various tools to for land value capture after certain infrastructure. So now let me go to Edward again. What key economic, social, and environmental drivers have led governments to increasingly prioritize transit-oriented development as a model for urban regeneration?
Yeah, so I think the challenge that governments now have is really that there's no endless amounts of debt that is available for them to do a lot of redevelopment. And as such, But one of the key things that government has is they do have land. For example, you have railway agencies that have had land ownership from before countries such as Kenya were Kenya, You have road agencies, you have other utilities that have significant land assets. And a lot of those have just been idle or underutilized, right? Just to tie to what Patience has highlighted, that can actually form a tool where you can be able to finance your projects. You can be able to redevelop a lot of projects just off the utilization of the land. And in the past, land utilization, what government would do is try and sell the land. But that's not the option here that we're presenting. You can come up with innovative mechanisms such as joint ventures, as she's highlighted, where government, if properly structured, come up with the right mechanisms where they can sit as equals with a developer and bring in the value they can bring in horizontal infrastructure, accelerated planning approvals, being able to bring in the rest of government, and that can be the value that they bring to a deal, right? And through that, then they're able to come up with developments that over time are able to deliver a profit or deliver returns. And those returns can actually be able to finance additional projects, subsidize operations for other areas that are not profitable. Yeah, like case example, mass urban transit is not in itself supposed to generate revenues because it's supposed to move the masses. So you can subsidize transit. For instance, you can keep fares at 50 shillings so that you can maximize the users and use that volume as a real estate opportunity for other people, right? And through that, then you can be able to make that cycle go on and go on again. And through this capital appreciation, that money can actually flow back to government to do additional infrastructure, to form an endowment, which they can be able to apply to other projects. So I think those pressures are really driven by the constraint around resource availability.
Okay, thank you very much. Neerav, with major public sector projects, how do you formulate them for private sector investment?
So looking at the example of urban railways, so metros, commuter rail, as an example. So the whole, and this works for buses, bus systems as well, see how matatus are used, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole user experience is based on, there is the transport part, but there's also the part that what the users are doing in their broader life. So when a commuter goes from work to home, they're transitioning from being a worker, essentially, to a mother, a father, a friend, party goer, et cetera, et cetera. And from that, they have needs of essentially buying things. That buying need is generally neglected when you purely look at just the transport system. And that's why in Kenya we, at matatu stages, they're purely considered as, I don't know, at the minimum a place for buses to park. But then markets form around them because there is such a great opportunity. People have a need to buy things. So at railway stations, if you keep it simple and just have a ticket barrier, you're going to have hawkers essentially surrounding it. Internalizing that into the actual stations, that's the real value to the private sector. Engaging the private sector early to ensure those needs are met in efficient ways, that's super useful. And then you can do in a way that the private sector actually can fund the entire station, because in reality, the ticket barriers are just a minor aspect of the rest of the value enhancement. And that's retail, but it can also be offices, it can be residential, it can be entertainment. So that's the opportunity there for the private sector. Okay. I'll stick with that.
Yes, thank you very much. Bobby, your Parklands project is located near major commuter routes and employment and education nodes. How does proximity to transit corridors change the economics and demand for high-density housing, particularly for the urban youth?
I think, so what's special about the urban youth, particularly those below the age of 35, here in Nairobi or Kenya generally, is that they don't drive. In fact, across our entire facility, we currently have about 30 parking spots, and over the past year, we've only had 2 tenants that have parked a car, and that was only because they were borrowing the family car for the weekend. It wasn't because that is their permanent mode of transport. So despite our building or our facility being in a location that is well connected to a road system, to an education facility, it really doesn't matter. It's mainly focused on whether people can walk to get to the facility to stay. Having said that, there are times that our tenants require easy access to daily needs for convenience. So that's when the road system plays a role in supporting that Uber coming to pick them up, to take them to a particular location, or supporting that boda rider accessing the facility easily via road because they want to come and deliver some food. So that has been really helpful and eye-opening to site selection, because we have realized that despite our buildings being in really good locations with good commuter routes, good good locations that could easily form a network within an urban node, we realize that actually it's not about the tenant, it's about the tenant accessing a service to them. They don't really care where they're staying because they need to get their car onto a particular road network. It's just about how people get to them.
Okay, thank you. Tinka, what role does urban property governance and public assets audits play in enabling bankable urban regeneration?
I believe we've seen urban regeneration in Rwanda, Kigali. We've seen it in Addis, Ethiopia. They're going through major urban transformation. And I believe in order to have urban regeneration or successful transit-centered growth, we need more than ambition. We need bankability, and that starts with governance. It is very clear that investors are not afraid of risk, but what they do not like is uncertainty. And that is what we have a lot of here with our structures, with our data. There is lack of proper data in the country. That's why we're trying to do better research, we're trying to collect more data, but there's so much uncertainty. And for people to be able to invest in the future value now, we need bankability, and for that we need good governance. We need better structures, better zoning, we need to build that trust between both the public and the private sector. So I do believe governance is the foundation of it all.
Okay, I think we've started seeing improvement in urban governance, improvement in land administration in this country, the SASA, such projects that are now trying to improve urban governance within both from the national government and from the county government. So it's at this stage I would like to find out if there's anyone who'd like to ask a question to the panelists. Then after that, we could then give them a chance to give the closing remarks. Any questions from the audience? Sure. This is a very good class. Yeah, we must have explained everything very well, so no need for questions. Anyone? Okay. Fine. I think then what we'll just do that since we are about finished with our time, I'll just ask from Bobby coming this way, just to say closing remarks and about this topic.
Yeah. Thanks, Gigi, and thanks everyone for attending. I'd say just from my side, it's an interesting topic to think through, particularly for those that are developers, to really understand how government plays a role in supporting developments through leading infrastructure projects. What I have found extremely helpful is trying to foresee that happening, but still planning a development as if it isn't going to happen. That way, you mitigate against the risk of a timing shift that is out of your control.
Bringing a few strands together on Railway City, we've had action area plans undertaken, creating that future stability and essentially the rules of the game that must be followed. There's a structure in place, administrative structure, on how essentially it will be run. And hopefully, basically it's bringing together essentially a few things that Patience was just talking about, which I won't repeat.
I think for me, what I'd say is urban regeneration is possible. We just need to work together, both the public and the private sector, build that trust and invest in the country and in the counties, even the peri-urban areas, because there's so much stress on infrastructure in Nairobi now. But the potential of urban regeneration, the potential of this transit-oriented development will take the stress from the main center and be able to build areas that are farther away and be able to at least open the country up for more investment, for more opportunities for the communities. And I believe this would leave the country and the people in a much better place than we are now.
Edward?
Yeah, thanks. I would say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, really. And that's why I think now that we're having the conversation, I would say that given in the position that I've been sitting in, government has started reforming how they think, and I think that's half the journey. And that now they're putting in the necessary governance mechanisms, they have put in the necessary plans, and it just doesn't sit at a national level. I have been supporting on certain roles, even at a subnational level, where county governments are looking at also using land value capture as options to actually fund infrastructure projects through the tools available to them, such as land rates, that they can be increased. So the mechanisms are there, and that's putting them in a position that they can actually deliver on infrastructure. And through that, there is an opportunity. So to any developers out there, I think don't be shy to engage with government. I think now the frameworks are in place test cases are available. Now that we're actually seeing a lot more success with them working in private sector, and that makes it a lot easier on other projects, just given the locations and given the scale that they have to develop on infrastructure. So, yeah, happy to interact with anyone around all of those conversations. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much. This panel, I would like to thank the panelists, the speakers. The beauty about it is most of us, at least apart from Bobby, we worked on these projects on transport-oriented developments, and soon there is going to be more work on various commuter train lines. There are 5 commuter lines, so there's definitely going to be more work about transit-oriented developments and how we can be able to improve them. So I would like to could you please give a round of applause to our panelists? Thank you very much. I was hoping to see Ryan because he told us to choose our socks carefully when you get onto stage. So I did choose my socks carefully. Even if they don't match, that's the point. Thank you very much. Thank all of you. Bye.